Hey guys, welcome back to the Geek Box and to another top 10 list here on the channel. And as most of you know, if you've watched this channel long enough, I'm a huge wrestling fan. It's kind of eared down over the last like 5-10 years as the product changed quite a bit, but I still keep up to date and watch the pay-per-views and that, so I still consider myself a fan. But I thought everything that's been going on lately, and obviously Triple H now has taken over the company, running the day-to-day operations, etc. Stephanie McMahon has taken over as CEO of the company since Vince's retirement, and there's been a good few things that have been changing the company, so I thought this would be a good chance for me to then do what I consider the top 10 changes under Triple H's regime. So starting us off is the less talk time. I think one of the things for me that got me with what was happening with the product was the fact that there was a lot more promo work going on, and not a lot of it to me at times seemed like it was even storytelling. It was more filling the space. That seems to have been peeled back quite a bit. The fact that now there's a lot more of the wrestling taking place and the promos being on top to either open the show or to cut segments up or to push that story forwards, and it feels a lot more like the older style of wrestling, which I love. So it's definitely something that's like really stuck out for me. Then it moves on to, on top of that, there's less silly stuff now, especially things like the 24/7 title and that. There was a lot of really cartoony sort of things I felt slipping back into the cracks in WWE. For me, it was something that put me off. I like the humour and the comedy. I mean, I grew up watching it through the Attitude Era, and there was comedy set in there, but it was well placed. The characters themselves, like DX for example, their thing was that they were funny, but they could kick the crap out of people. Whereas a lot of stuff like the slapstick sort of thing, I think the last proper sketch that I saw that really got me going way back was probably the Santino doing the tea time with Sheamus, because that was brilliant. But and the highlight probably for the 24/7 title for me was seeing R-Truth retaining it in all different ways, but then that burnt out really fast. So to see them roll it back with how much of that they were putting in, because it started to feel very early 90s at one point for me, it feels like a really good step forwards. The name returns. Now, Vince had this thing about bringing people down to single names, which I really never got, because it almost, for me, it takes away the realism of the fact that that's a person that's supposed to be their name. But since Triple H has come back in, we've had Austin Theory's name come back, Matt Riddle got his name back, Angel Garza, and Tommaso Ciampa, because just hearing us just Ciampa, Angel, Riddle and Theory, it's just very immersion breaking, I think, to someone sort of like more of an old school fan. So that's a really cool step forwards. The commentating teams since Triple H took charge of things has been through the roof. I mean, I'm gutted that Pat McAfee's taking time out, because him and Michael Cole is absolute gold on the microphone. This really added that deep element in that commentary is supposed to carry into wrestling. The fact that you're hooked on what the commentators are saying and they're pushing that story, and it's natural and exciting. Vince had this big thing about micromanaging the commentary team, really feeding directly to them what they should be saying, when they should be saying things. And if you look around on YouTube, you'll find footage of like Michael Cole discussing and even a few times arguing what was being said to him during a show, and it made it really wooden. Whereas now they're just so literally watching them jump up and down. I mean, I think one of your best bets if you want to see it in action is go and watch Liv Morgan winning the title with the Money in the Bank contract. You'll see, because they weren't told it was going to happen afterwards, so it was completely on the spot. It was a natural reaction from them as wrestling fans, as fans of Liv Morgan's, and it really summed up what was missing for such a long time from the commentary team. Wrestling is back. Literally, the word wrestling. Vince banned the word wrestling, literally. It had to be sports entertainment, sports entertainers, superstars. Whereas the first indication we got of this straight away was when Drew McIntyre literally said to Kevin Owens that we're wrestlers in a wrestling ring, so let's wrestle. And I think for a lot of old school fans, it was really cool to hear that again, because it's World Wrestling Entertainment. Wrestling is part of the name of the company itself. So the fact that Vince put a big embargo on the fact that he couldn't use that word was ridiculous. And I think because of the mentality that they're a wrestling show again, it's showing up in the quality of their matches. So now it feels like you're watching a wrestling show again, like it was once before. The quality of the wrestling matches. Now that the superstars are being allowed to do what they do, and we saw this on NXT when Triple H ran it, they're not being micromanaged into, these are your spots, this is what we want you to do. They're being allowed to tell the story again. And I think for a lot of people that have joined in the last 5 years, they're probably seeing for the first time the true talent that these stars carry with them. I mean, you've got some of the most talented wrestlers right now in the company, but they've had their hands tied behind their back for so long, and now they're really breaking. I mean, just watching the product again now, it feels like you can sit down and enjoy watching the show itself. You don't have to just pick up what's going on with this, that, and the other. Oh, we know who's going to win X, Y, Z. So it really feels like they have put that quality back into the product and actually allowed wrestling fans of all kinds to enjoy it again. On the back of the last one, the more believable talent is now being pulled up. You've got like Shayna Baszler. It's a great example. I love Shayna Baszler's character as a wrestler, but she's believable. I mean, apart from the fact she's got the real background, Shayna Baszler looks like she could kick your ass any day of the week. And yet, what was done with her since she came from NXT was ridiculous under Vince's reign. She was just pop in and out and just treated like a joke, basically. Whereas within 2 minutes of this new takeover with Triple H, she's had a shot at the Women's Championship. Her and Liv Morgan, as far as I'm concerned, have one of the best matches I've seen in a long, long time. I was genuinely stunned watching that. That's probably the first pay-per-view that I've watched where I've just watched the whole thing right the way through and I didn't want to miss any of it. And it shows the talent of being able to tap into what they can really do, and they're making it more believable because you're seeing people who know how to fight in that ring actually fight in that ring. And I think before, this is why we had the whole thing of like Brock Lesnar constantly being put in matches. Don't know, I love Lesnar, so I was fine with it. But it was that element of he was believable, where a lot of other talent weren't being made as believable. Lesnar was believable for two simple reasons. One, because we know he can destroy people in real life. We've seen that in the Octagon. Secondly, because he had some creative control. He didn't have to answer to all the little things. He was allowed to go and do his thing in the match, and it showed. And now we're seeing this across the entire roster. It works. One of the most important things for the Attitude Era, the most prosperous era in the whole of WWE wrestling, was the storytelling. Anyone who's old enough to remember the Attitude Era properly, I'd say anyone who's 30 plus years old, they can remember so many stories from the Attitude Era. Now you talk about like the DX storyline, who ran over Stone Cold. You know, even a little bit past that, we still had things like Billy and Chuck, the wedding, and things like that. We had stories that constantly go. Just saying that, I can think of about 20 different stories on my head straight away that I loved back in the day. And we haven't had that for a long time. You get the odd story pops out here and there, but long-term storytelling was something that Vince didn't think people could stick with. He literally said he didn't think people would like long-term storytelling because they wouldn't follow it. But they do. People love it. NXT proved that by telling long stories. And now we're starting to see these stories develop again. Whether it be a story like the rivalry, like right now Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle. Brilliant story. They have their own matches and then they're still fighting each other backstage. They're still interrupting each other's matches and things like that. The story's rolling and it's escalating because they can tell their own stories, whether it be through their promos or through their wrestling. This kind of storytelling has been missing for way too long. And it's now adding some of my favourite things I've seen in wrestling out of any company right now. Talent is coming back. Literally the first thing that Triple H had a fingertip in, the pay-per-view he took part of it, but the rest of it had already been set in. But still, straight away we got Bayley back, we got Dakota Kai come back, you know, we got so many different people. Johnny Gargano's just come back. it's just, he's bringing back the talent that really counts, that Vince couldn't put his finger on what to do with them, which was ridiculous because they were established stars and know their game better than some of the other people they've kept around. I hate to say, it's like, you know, everyone there is talented, but there are some people that just shine way above the rest, and they were being cut away. And of course, my favourite one is that Braun Strowman came back, one of my favourite wrestlers ever to have stepped foot in the ring. Seeing him make a proper return in such a fascinating shape as well, it's just, it's been such an advantage. It's bringing fans back in because they're coming back in with these stars and the excitement and the buzz that's around it. Speaking of buzz, this is the thing, it's exciting again. It's the first time in ages that I've sat and watched wrestling in its entirety, not just got the highlights, but actually sat and watched the matches, sat and enjoyed watching a whole pay-per-view. And it's because of all these things on the list put together. The storyline's fantastic, the right people are back in the right places. Every title feels important now. Tag team title, Intercontinental title, every title between feels like it's really important, like they should. Not just, here's some filler and then there's Roman Reigns with the unified titles. Every title feels important again now. I mean, if you watch Sheamus and Gunther's match, my God, they literally beat the crap out of each other. I think it's the first match in ages WWE's had where Dave Meltzer gave it a 5-star review as well. And I know that's just his opinion, but I've got to agree with it. That match was just non-stop. It was fantastic to watch. It was just brutal, like wrestling should be at times. So it's just captivating again, and that's what this is supposed to be all about. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, guys. Let me know what you liked so far about the change that Triple H has made. And of course, if you haven't already, please feel free to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Hit the subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on all the latest content. And of course, I'll see you all out there.